welcome back, listeners, to BizBlend, the podcast where business meets wisdom and also real world grit. I'm your host, Sana, bringing you another power packed conversation designed to challenge your thinking and also fuel your growth. My today's guest knows a thing or two about building an empire from scratch. Listeners, meet Aidan Sowa. He went from drowning in debt to leading multiple high performing businesses, including Sowa Marketing Agency, which is a $1 billion data company, and Zoto Dialer, a cutting edge platform that helps outbound sales teams scale faster but smarter. But this conversation, listeners, isn't just about the tech. It's about the art of building predictable pipelines, standing out in a noisy market, and transforming obstacles, blockers into opportunities. So, if you have ever struggled with cold calling and you have wondered how to make outreach feel less like a daily grind and more like a growth engine, this episode is for you. So, with that, Aiden, welcome to the show, and it is such an honor to have you with us.
Yeah, great to be on.
Okay, so Aaron, let's start with the basics. Most people dread cold calling, including myself. I have had so much of bittersweet experience with cold calling, but seeing you building a platform around it, I mean, it's awesome. So, what exactly is the mindset shift entrepreneurs specifically need to make to see cold calling as an opportunity rather than just a chore?
Yes, so I would say that the hardest part, it's similar to that of like door knocking. It's just getting started. So once you kind of get into the rhythm, it's really not exactly that hard. And it is sort of a chore. I mean, that's what it is. But
Mm.
chores need to get done. So that's the way I would look at it. Just because, like, your house is dirty doesn't mean, like, oh, like, I'm just not going to clean it. You still have to get the job done. And that's the way I would look at it. It needs to be done. And I would look at it like sometimes one way which I've seen entrepreneurs to reduce like the aspect of like, oh, like is this even gonna do anything? Is being able to track everything. So have everything in a Google sheet and look at everything and be like, okay, this is how many calls it takes for me to get an actual deal. So that way if you're making 300, 400, 500, 1,000 cold calls, then you know exactly how many calls you are to get a deal. So from there, like when you get hung up on, when you get like frustrated, etc., you're only like a few hundred or maybe 1,000 or whatever your exact number is away from an actual deal.
Hmm, that makes sense. That makes sense. And one question which I kind of myself thought about, um, and I've seen in the circles talking that in this age of digital marketing, where you have multiple platforms to reach out, and you have processes, you have approaches to see where exactly your ideal customer or your target audience is. Do you think cold calling is still holding that relevance to, build your business or increase your revenue?
It is very much so. I would say there's a lot of myths out there, and I sometimes I question why there's these myths out there about how like cold calling is dead. People say that all the time, but they also say that about cold email, which is very much alive as well. And I would say that the people who say that quite simply aren't doing enough cold calls. So traditional ways of doing cold calling have died out. Meaning, if you're still calling landlines, if you're still just doing calls manually off, like say your cell phone, then that aspect of cold calling is more or less dead because then you're lucky to maybe schedule one person a day. However, it's become more so of like a volume game, similar to that of like how cold email has become more of a volume game. Cold calling in particular, you 100, 200, even 300 cold calls a day isn't enough anymore.
Yeah.
Major companies out there are doing like 500 cold calls a day per caller, which may sound crazy, but it's actually very doable because with automated dialer softwares, it's possible to do 500 cold calls in a single hour. You don't have to be spending an entire day to do that.
Okay, okay. Let's get into that. So let's talk about Zoto Dialer, Aiden. It uses smart parallel dialing technology. So can you break that down? What exactly that means? For me as well, and for the non-tech folks, and why is it such a game changer for outbound sales teams?
Yeah, so I mean, what it does primarily is the 14 line dialer. So we're dialing many different numbers at the same time, and the first person who picks up the phone is who you'll get connected with. And we get this question all the time in terms of like, well, what if three people or two people answer the phone at the exact same time? And we put them into, like, a queue. So if someone is just, like, waiting, usually you have a few seconds to, like, kinda get onto that next conversation, get into a queue. Sometimes people just wait around because, I don't know, like, maybe they're eating or doing something else. You get onto that next call, and then you can convert them. But most of the time, what we're seeing with most industries, the average pickup rate's around, like, 10%. So you'll get a connector with around one person every 20 to 30 seconds.
Hmm. And there's a lot of talk about, obviously, it has to be addressed upon that AI has the potential to replace cold calling or traditional outreach. Uh,
Mhm.
what's your take, Aaron, on that? I mean, are we heading toward a full-fledged automation taking over, or is there still a human edge that can't be replaced, especially uh, when we talk about the top funnel, like the outreach that we do just to get that one interested person out of those 10 people who responded back from the 100 leads we have.
Mhm. Yeah, so I would say there's a certain aspects that the human approach will never completely disappear. For example, the event-based business has been around for 50 plus years. It will still be relevant 50 plus years from now. It's the same aspect with cold calling. People want to connect with other people. In regards to AI calling, that's something which a lot of people dislike. No one actually wants to be cold called by an AI. And it's gone to the point where it's actually illegal to do so. Like, so the the FTC actually passed a law last year
Yes.
which made it illegal to do robocalls and to do any type of AI calls. So are still companies doing it, but it's very much illegal, and you get fined around $10,000 every single time you do one of those illegal AI calls. So I think the FTC has made their stance pretty clear, at least for now, that AI cold calling and it's just illegal, which is why with several companies and stuff, they do use AI calls, but it's more so as like an inbound call thing. So, for example, if you're interested in a particular service, you can check a box saying you're okay with AI calls. You have to sign basically disclosure saying you're okay with that. And then that company can call you, legally speaking, for inbound calls to say, like, hey, we've got a new offer. That type of thing. I can say, like, okay, like that has a future. But in terms of cold calling, nobody really wants like their first interaction with a company to be an AI agent. And even though, like, we've gotten pretty good, the problem with a lot of these different softwares out there, people who are trying to do it very much illegally, it's very easy to catch on, at least for now, because there's like a latency factor. For those who don't really understand what latency is, it takes a few seconds for it to say anything. And that's a problem because people catch on to that. It's very weird pauses, which is pretty easy for people to catch on that's AI. And you'll hear people say like, "Oh, is this AI? Are you open AI?" And then the thing will be responding back, "Yes, this is," and stuff, and it totally screws up the call.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Aiden. Okay. Now, let's talk more about the smart parallel dialing technology. So, um, what kind of problems is it trying to solve out there, Aiden? Because you must have analyzed different industries and markets who are using cold calling techniques. We use CRM we have multiple channels to connect with leads, not only through calls but through different media. So what kind of problems is Zoto Dialer trying to solve here?
So what we're trying to solve is a massive problem. It's that most of these dialer softwares out there
Mhm.
have their numbers burn out extremely quickly. Meaning, if you're calling, you want to make sure you're constantly getting high pickup rates, meaning a lot of people
Yeah.
answering the phone. And the problem is that their numbers is this thing which is around true caller ID. And the worst thing which can happen is that your number gets flagged as spam. So you're calling all these numbers, and the truth is, on a per number basis, you can only get away with around 50, maybe 55 calls per number per day before that number gets flagged as spam and enough people report that number. And what we have in terms of like a technology is we have like a huge list of numbers rotating. So a single number never goes beyond that actual amount. So when someone is signing up with us, even though they're getting a 14 line dialer, which means 14 different lines going at the same time, they're cycling between like literally 100 plus numbers. So that way, these numbers never ever get burned. And on top of that, they're getting in front of a ton more people because the standard dialers out there, they're only connecting with one person every 6, 7 minutes, which is extremely inefficient because in the past, you used to be able to get in front of like cold calling used to be able to do like every 1, 2 minutes, which is what we're trying to bring it back to like the days of cold calling where you could get very quick connects and actually get very good deals.
Hmm. That's really a genuine problem, especially with international calls and all. Uh, personally, also I've faced situations like this. And it does happen that your number gets blocked or flagged as spam, and that's a real blocker in there to genuinely, even if you are intentionally genuinely connecting with the person. So that's really a good problem statement to look into. um and Aidan, are there any few tactical steps, for solopreneurs or founders or even small or medium business owners that they can implement today to start building a more predictable pipeline than just finding a needle in the haystack kind of feeling overwhelmed and pressured, frustrated?
Yeah. So I mean, I would say the first thing which I would go about doing is to track everything. So in terms of like metrics, you need to know what your pickup rate is, and you need to know what your conversion rate is into like an actual booked call. So that should be all tracked within like a Google sheet. I've been shocked by the number of like entrepreneurs which simply do not even track their metrics. If you don't track their metrics, you're blind. So you need to track your pickup rate. You need to track what percentage of people turn into your booked call and what percentage of those people will even sign up. And also beyond that, like how much money are they actually paying? And the biggest thing about it all is you want to track the volume as well, what you're doing on a daily basis. Because let's just say you know your metrics, you know your pickup rates, you know exactly what percentage people sign up, you know all that stuff. The next thing to do is to increase the volume. You want to maximize the volume so that way you're reaching the most number of like people on a daily basis. Because sales is very much a volume based game. And if you know hey, it takes 1,000 calls to get one closed deal, for example, then why not just do 10,000? Why not just do more? Why not hire some more cold callers? That's how you scale a predictable pipeline because there's so many metrics out there with like other types of like aspects, and there's not certainly nothing wrong with them, like Facebook or Google ads, they all work. But the problem is that like Facebook or Google could change something, and they often do the next month, and then you got to change your ad to get it start all over again, etc. And the cool thing is with cold calling is you can have like once you know your metrics, then you can get away with doing that for like a long, long time, add more people to your call center, etc., and just scale very quickly.
Absolutely. That's the basics. That's the basics. Sales 101.
Yes.
That's great. So, Aaron, before we wrap up, what's the best way to connect with you, explore more about Zoto Dialer? And, if our listeners would like to get more and more such practical tips from you on pipeline building and cold calling.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say the best way to connect would be to send us an email, info at zotodialer.co. That's probably the best way to reach us. And we could go over like any types of like questions or anything like that, which which the listeners might have.
Great. I'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes. And Aiden, thank you. Thank you so much. You just dropped gold on how to turn cold calling from a dreaded task into a predictable, effective, strategized revenue driver. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We're all.
So, listeners, if you loved this episode and you loved the insights from Aiden and you want more on scaling your business and standing out, don't forget to hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little of BizBlend boost. And also don't forget to connect with Aiden and check out Zoto Dialer and just refer to the show notes along with this episode. And until next time, keep blending those big bold ideas with bold action as well.